Hey everyone, Oldies DJ Matt back with you. Welcome to episode 4 of my one-off YouTube video series called An Introduction to Deep Diving into Rock and Roll Music of the 60s and 70s and some 80s. If you didn't see the preceding episodes, at the start of episode 1 and 2, I provided introduction into what this video series is about, why I put it together, who it is intended for, how it is structured, and how the content was chosen. I'm going to skip over that introductory stuff. Check out episode 1 or 2 for those details, because we have a lot to talk about and get right down to business. We have 5 albums, and I'm going to go into some detail about 2 of the artists in these 5 albums. We have a lost hit by a very well-known group. And we're going to take a break from talking about internet radio programs and instead talk a little about how to research the music on the internet, as well as a place you can go to discuss the music with some like-minded music fans, some of whom are incredibly knowledgeable. So let's get started with some early 70s progressive rock. This is the 1972 album by the group Yes, called Close to the Edge. It is their 5th album, and I'm sure most of you know Yes is one of the groups most associated with 1970s progressive rock. Progressive rock was all the rage in the early and mid-70s. But it fell out of favor by the end of the decade and is pretty much gone by around 1980. And sometimes when you talk to folks, they're a little iffy about progressive rock. My suggestion is you listen to some of it and make up your own mind. It is very creative. I'm going to be showing you 3 more progressive rock albums in the coming episodes, and they are completely different. When I think of progressive rock, I think of longer songs, often divided into separate tracks. Song structure that is completely different from standard pop, blues, and rock and roll song structure. Sometimes long passages with no rhythm section, classical music influences. In the case of groups like Yes, challenging musicianship. So Yes really had a run with progressive rock. It began on their 3rd album, called the Yes album, which came out in 1971. And on this album, they added Steve Howe as their new guitarist. And really, everything fell into place. Songs on this album instantly became popular on album rock radio. Some of them, like Starship Troopers, I've heard on modern classic rock radio. I've Seen All Good People. Part 1 of that song was released as a single. Not a big hit, but it's the first time I heard Yes. And the Yes album was followed up in 1971 with Fragile, which brought Rick Wakeman in as the new keyboard player, and also kicked up the album art a good notch. Oh, Rick Wakeman's an amazing musician. I can't think of any pianist that plays more beautifully than Rick Wakeman. He can be heard doing the piano introduction on the song Morning is Broken by Cat Stevens. A very serious musician, one of the best. Yeah, Yes, for the rest of the decade sounded really darn good with Rick Wakeman in the lineup. And then after Fragile came out, the next album was Close to the Edge. Unfortunately, modern day classic rock radio is limiting themselves to those 3 albums. The Yes album, Fragile, and Close to the Edge. I don't think you'll hear anything else by Yes, and in spite of the fact that they continued to release great progressive rock albums all the way up through 1980. Yeah, they continued progressive rock after most artists who were doing that moved on. In fact, here is the 1980 album Drama, which marked the end. It's kind of a different sound on this one. Not their most popular album. And after Drama, Yes broke up. The group reemerged in late 1983. Different membership, much different sound. prog pop is what I've heard. Genesis went the same direction. Instead of prog rock, it's prog pop. They did songs like Owner of a Lonely Heart. But there was one more album that came out, I think in 1989, that harkened back to the sound of 70s progressive rock. And that is when singer John Anderson left the rebooted version of Yes and got back together with Steve Howe, Rick Wakeman, and the Yes's original drummer Bill Bruford, and released a one-off progressive rock album project called Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe. That's worth checking out, but definitely I'm only really talking about Close to the Edge for the purpose of finding you a quintessential progressive rock album to get started with. That's really it. And it's only got 3 songs on it. I'm not going to talk about it much. The title song takes up all of side 1 on the original LP. It's got some beautiful major key melodies wrapped inside this magnificent opus of a prog rock piece. Side 2 has only 2 songs on it. One of them features some great work from Steve Howe on acoustic 12-string guitar. It's an electric song, though. And I'm just recommending Close to the Edge as your starting point. And from there, if you like that, move into the other Yes albums of the 70s, definitely. Okay, actually, going for the one from 1977, that's a particularly good choice. Okay, next, Carly Simon and her 1976 album, Another Passenger. Carly is at times really a brilliant lyricist. I mean, everybody knows You're So Vain, and I'm sure everybody knows Jessie, her 1980 hit with that unexpected plot twist. She has a way of taking some more complex events in life and putting them into lyrics that you never find yourself asking, what the heck is she talking about, I mean, she doesn't do this with every song. She has simple lyric, like throwaway lyric songs like Attitude Dancing, which became a hit. But all of her albums in the 70s really, starting with No Secrets, her 1973 album, onward, all of these albums feature some of Carly's songwriting. And if you like songwriters, singer-songwriters, right, and you like 70s pop music, maybe a little on the softer side, but not too soft, Carly Simon is really worth checking out. Another Passenger does not have any major hits on it. The 2 singles were Half a Chance, which she performed on Saturday Night Live back when that show was in its early years, and It Keeps You Running. And that song was better known as done by the Doobie Brothers. Actually, Carly and the Doobies both released that song as a single in 1976. I love hearing Carly sing it, hitting that unusual scale on which that song is written. She sounds really great doing that. The album also has, it's a great sounding album. There's a tropical song on here that I like. Cowtown is, I think that would have been a better choice as a single than Half a Chance. I love Half a Chance, but I don't think I don't remember many stations playing that one. So Carly Simon, 1976, Another Passenger, great performer. I love singer-songwriters. Okay, next. Sly and the Family Stone's Greatest Hits. And I don't have the old LP anymore to show you. I got this box set instead, but this is the album I'm recommending. It is not the only compilation of Sly and the Family Stone's music, but and I wasn't going to be talking about greatest hits albums, but sometimes a greatest hits album covers a specific period in a performer's history, and that's what makes it interesting. And in the case of Sly and the Family Stone's greatest hits, it covers the pop period of this brilliant artist's singles. Um, or let's call it California soul pop. It's that's a better description. This is a pop album. This is an album for folks who may not be fond of, uh, album rock or the uh, darker direction that Sly and the Family Stone went starting in 1971. Um, the uh, the songs that are included on this album, they're basically all of the singles, A sides and B sides, from 1967's Dance to the Music up through 1970, Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again. A sides and B sides. There's a lot of joy and danceability in this music. The sound of the music is fresh and lively, and there's a lot of uplifting themes. Everybody is a star. You can make it if you try. I am everyday people. And after 1970, Sly was no longer doing this kind of music. And you can get a compilation that is more of a career retrospective. But I've noticed that these compilations are adding the 1971 onward period singles at the expense of dropping some of the soul pop singles. And I don't know, the song selection just doesn't quite work. The two different styles don't fit together. So I'm definitely recommending Sly and the Family Stone's Greatest Hits. And if you like the later sound of Sly and the Family Stone, the next album to pick up would probably be his 1971 album called There's a Riot Going On, which has the three singles Running Away, Family Affair, and You Caught Me Smiling. Okay, next. How about some early 70s classic hard rock pop with a great, great singer? We have Bad Company's debut album. This came out in 1974. It is full of radio favorites. And this is a real crossover pop hard rock album. You've got the hit I Can't Get Enough of Your Love. You have the radio staples Rock Steady, Ready for Love, the title song Bad Company, Moving On. It's just one great song after another. You don't have to be a fan of hard rock to love this. And then there's Paul Rodgers. Wow. Paul Rodgers is the singer with the group Free. He sings the song All Right Now. I hear he was a teenager when he joined that group, and Free broke up, and he and one of the other members of Free formed Bad Company. But it seems that Paul set out at the start of Bad Company to really work on his singing and establish himself as a premier rock and roll singer, and he really succeeds at that. This album is a superb vocal performance, as well as the other musicians in the group. I also love the way it's produced. Guitar, bass, and drum way up front in the mix. No ambience or reverb or echo or wall of sound or anything like that. It's kind of like you're standing in front of a garage listening to them perform. You can hear the sweat dripping, the tension as the guitar is being plucked. Wonderful album. Bad Company, debut album, 1974. Okay, and for our final album, something by the Jimi Hendrix Experience, a live recording from 1968 called Winterland Highlights. Not to be confused with an album that came out in the 80s called Live at Winterland. Winterland Highlights has a cover similar to this one. Now, before I get into that, as a public service, I'm going to try to describe the Jimi Hendrix album catalog because it's very confusing. And part of the reason is different entities were in charge of packaging and distributing his music after his death. So let's start with what he actually put together in his lifetime. There were only 4 albums. He was working on a 5th album. The 4 albums that he oversaw the release himself are Are You Experienced, Axis Bold as Love, Electric Ladyland, which was a double LP, and those were performed by the Jimi Hendrix Experience. He then switched to a different backup band, and his final album in his lifetime was the live album called simply Hendrix Band of Gypsies. And a note about the album Are You Experienced? If you get that album today on CD, it contains 17 songs. And that's because the original package of the album included some non-album singles and flip sides. And then there were two different versions of the album in the US versus the UK. So basically, at some point, they decided on CD just to put everything in one place. If you have a copy of Are You Experienced on LP or that you got on CD in the 80s, you probably only have 11 tracks. It's probably worth going out and getting the CD of the entire package, all 17 songs. I would definitely recommend that. So that was it. Other than Jimi arranging for his music from Monterey to be released, and I guess Woodstock, that was all he accomplished in his lifetime. And anything else bearing the name Jimi Hendrix is posthumous and conceived and assembled by someone else. Up until 1996, this was done by some folks who were appointed by Jimi's record company. And they made some decisions that are controversial. They appeared to be more profit-based than honoring the art. And around 1996, Jimi's family, led by his father, won legal control and took over. And they have a website called Experience Hendrix. And they allowed most of the albums, but not all of the posthumous albums, under the original record company arrangement to go out of print, and over time reissued a lot of the same music on similar title albums or different title albums, including the set that I'm talking about today from Winterland. Before we get into that, the fifth album, Jimi was working on a new album at the time of his death. He was done with the Band of Gypsies and was returning to the setting and the sound of the Jimi Hendrix Experience. He planned for this next album to be a double LP. He had a track listing written down. His band members and studio crew were familiar with the project. At the time he died, most of the songs on the track listing were recorded in some form. Anything from being fully finished and mixed down and ready for release, oppositely to being only one take in a studio at one point. So his band members and engineer finished the album as best they could based on what they knew he might want to do. And these songs were originally released by the original record company arrangement in 1971 on two different albums that you may have heard of, called Cry of Love and Rainbow Bridge. Nowadays, these albums appear on a single CD in the order that Jimi originally specified in his track listing. The CD is called First Rays of the New Rising Sun. It is not likely that Jimi would have released the album quite this way. In fact, the rougher tracks where he only had one take. The other musicians were able to do a final take, but he wasn't. The family refers to this as a compilation. And I personally like it more than Band of Gypsies, a lot more. So that's what Jimi put together. And the other material that he left behind included some studio tracks that were essentially outtakes, songs that he decided not to include on the fifth album or any other album. And he also recorded a bunch of his concerts. And when I say recorded, I mean he arranged ahead of time for a professional multi-track mobile equipment to be brought in and record the concert for eventual use as a live album. And among those shows that he recorded were 3 nights at the Winterland Ballroom in San Francisco in 1968. We heard some of the songs from these concerts scattered on different albums under the original record company arrangement. One of them is the CD I referred to before called Live at Winterland. It's a decent CD, but when the family took over, they took their time, sifted through all of the tapes from the 3 nights at Winterland Ballroom, and came up with 2 packages. One is a 4 CD set simply called Winterland, and the set that I'm recommending for you is a single CD, and the single CD is called Winterland Highlights. Jimi Hendrix live in concert is more fiery and improvisational than he is in the studio. He can do more with his guitar. It's quite enjoyable. Most of the songs on Winterland Highlights come from his first album, Are You Experienced? He has one song from the second album, Little Wing, and one from the very newly released album, the song called Voodoo Child Slight Return. There's a couple other songs on Winterland Highlights that he never recorded in the studio, but he did perform live. So Winterland Highlights, if you like Jimi Hendrix, really recommended. Wonderful guitar work. The rest of the band is on fire. Maybe it has something to do with performing in San Francisco at the height of the psychedelic music phase, but it's a wonderful collection of music and highly recommended. So, Jimi Hendrix, Winterland Highlights. I think the album came out in 2010. And who knows, you might find this for a decent price. I did. Okay, now it's time for your lost hit. In the previous episodes, I found a lost single, but not from particularly well-known acts. Well, Lulu is sort of well-known, but today's lost hit comes from the Carpenters, who had a bunch of huge hits in the 70s. And you'd think, how did they ever end up with a lost hit? Well, they did. I'm going to assign you your homework assignment. Look for the link that I put on my YouTube page under Oldies DJ Matt, or on my Blue Sky social media page under the same name. A YouTube link for the song All You Get From Love is a love song by the Carpenters. Classic Carpenters, wonderfully produced and performed by Richard and Karen Carpenter. Well, honestly, one of the greatest voices that ever lived. Oh, I was so sad when we lost her. I love the Carpenters. And I've noticed that people who are dedicated hard rock fans, I noticed they have a soft spot for the Carpenters. Okay. So to conclude this episode, I want to talk a little bit about researching music on the internet. You may wonder, is there a place that you can go to look up information about artists, about individual musicians and singers, about albums, about producers and other individuals involved, bands, whatever? Yes, there is. And it's hiding in plain sight. It's called Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a free encyclopedia, so it's fun going to this website because it's not cluttered with ads and stuff. Yes, once a year they put some stuff on the screen asking you to donate a few bucks, $2, $3, $5. It's worth it. Wikipedia is contributed by volunteers, and they have strict standards that the information has to be properly cited. So what happens is, yes, it is possible with Wikipedia that you might find some inaccurate information. That rarely happens. If you go to a Wikipedia article, there might be a notice on the top saying this page is lacking citations, or this page has multiple issues. That doesn't mean that the information on it is inaccurate. It just means that it's not properly cited. A lot of the times, information that's put on Wikipedia comes from people who are personally familiar with the situation, but they can't provide a citation to back that up. So in general, Wikipedia is wonderful. If you want to find out more about an artist, go to your favorite search engine, Carly Simon, for example, and type Carly Simon Wiki, W-I-K-I, and it'll point you directly to the Carly Simon Wikipedia page. And inside there you will find hyperlinks to her individual albums, many of her singles, musicians that she worked with, and all sorts of other information. Jimi Hendrix, for example. And if you are interested in just looking at a discography for a specific artist, for example, Jimi Hendrix, you can type in your favorite search engine, Jimi Hendrix Discography Wiki. If there is a separate discography wiki page, it'll point you directly to that. I found that Wikipedia is a great place to dive deep into research. And to this day, it's my favorite place for looking for information. Even I found references about really odd, kind of fringe interest stuff on Wikipedia. And Wikipedia's been around long enough that a lot of the information that was put here was put there years ago and has had many years of the opportunity to be checked and corrected as needed. So that's a good way to research the music on the internet. If you want to discuss the music of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 50s, pop music mainly, some album rock, a great website to visit is called the Oldies Message Board. It can be found at oldiesboard.com. It is an extremely easy to navigate website. It is so simple. The topics appear right up front, and you get to look at the conversation threads below there. The webpage is moderated by an amazing pop music expert, Mike Riccio. Mike puts up some interesting stuff all the time about things that happened in history, things that happened with a particular artist, things that happened on the charts, which is kind of unexpected. And anyone is welcome to get a login on this. If you go to the bottom of the page, you can ask for a login. You'll get a password from Mike, and you're welcome to start topics. Everybody respects each other. There's a lot of diverse opinions, and I especially appreciate the fact that a lot of people participate in this who know way more about the music than I do, and I can learn things all the time. So it is the Oldies Message Board. The URL is oldiesboard.com. At least visit it once and see if you like it. You'll get the idea right away. It's really simple and fun to look through. Okay, well, that wraps up episode 4. I didn't mention this before, but there is a like and a subscribe button on YouTube. I guess, and you can post comments there as well. If you push subscribe, if I do any projects, I probably will do some project after this is finished, maybe later in the summer. If I do anything new, you'll find out about it. I'm interested in reading your comments. If you like it, click on like. I'm interested in knowing if you like it. Also, if you want to contact me outside of the comments, I have an email address. It is oldiesdjmatt@gmail.com. So, we'll see you for episode 5. Have a good summer. Peace, love, and rock and roll.